Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to remain on the lower time frames for clear, obvious reasons. We're still stuck in this price range. And until we move out of this price range, we're going to be focused on this price range, evidently. It's very clear. But I only have two options here moving forward. We're at a pretty clear point in time where we're going to see a significant pivot occur, either to the upside, which is what we expect, or to the downside. Let's go ahead and discuss those two counts. Now, essentially, when it comes to Elliott wave, it's really governed by structure. And structure within Elliott wave creates degrees called wave degree, and those are governed by time. So it's a structure that's governed by time. Now, the prior wave 2, when we measure it in terms of time, this is what we get. This is the origin of the wave 2, and this is the termination of the wave 2 of a minute degree that we have. Applying it over to where we are right now, this is the beginning of our current wave 2 that we're in, and potentially it could still be going on, which we'll discuss, or it could have already completed, which we'll discuss as well. But essentially, from a time perspective, when we're taking a look at Elliott wave, this correction should not exceed the timing of the prior correction of a wave 2, because this will be a smaller degree and this will be a larger degree. So just from a simple time perspective, we're reaching a invalidation zone here, where once we go beyond it, it's a very large red flag. So given that, and given the swing structure within here, we are either completed with our minuets wave 2, or we have just a little bit more steam to go. Looking at it from the perspective that we are completed, this is how I have it. As a W, X, Y, X, Z. Now it finished pretty much right with where we expect those minuet degree times to occur. Again, when we look at this, the average time to completions, usually they finish somewhere in the middle, around here. When they finish at the beginning or at the end, that's usually an indication that potentially this is a different structure and a different degree that we should be observing. But as of right now, we've ended somewhere within what we expect from a minuet degree, and from a price perspective, we're pretty much right within what we expect for a wave 2 as well. Typically, we like to see wave 2 end at the 618, but it can go to the 786, and it's right within that price range. So we've got structure, time, and we have price right into the typical zones that we expect. Now it's really about managing expectations for the move upwards. This did look like it was forming to be a diagonal, but once it really lost that trend line right there, that was unvalidated. So truthfully, the only thing that I can see now at this perspective is this is a clear wave 1. Then we have a type of correction for wave 2. Either it's a type of running correction, and we start moving up, where this is a protected low, or we start attacking this low, where we have a expanded flat correction, then start moving up. Ultimately, though, this low right here, we would want to be maintained. That would be the ultimate invalidation here. Now, again, just for a visual perspective, here's our time invalidation, the time and completion for the prior wave 2. So it's something that I'm just monitoring, just keeping my charts. But again, there's perspective that this is not done. So bringing that perspective up, this is really the only way I can kind of, and I hate to say this, but force a correction to end. Because again, we don't want to go past the time of completion of a large degree. To me, that's the ultimate time rule. Just like how when it comes to the Elliott wave structure rules, we don't allow this. We don't allow a wave 2 to go beyond the origin of wave 1. Same thing from a time perspective. Once it goes beyond it from a time perspective, it's invalid. So again, I hate to say force, but when we look at this, this is the only way I can see it. And it also does make sense as well, because when we look at complex corrections, usually the W wave and the Y wave will seek parity. That's typically what happens. They typically are one-to-one. Now it's going well beyond that as of now already, but again, typically that Y wave does not extend that much in time in comparison to W. So that's another reason why we expect this to end fairly quickly. And this correction is also tricky as well, because it doesn't have to take this low in order for it to be considered a completed wave 2. There is potential that it could just take the origin or the termination of the W while keeping the extreme low of this X wave intact because of the running flat nature of this X wave. So it's a tricky structure. And then from a time perspective, again, we're looking at this as a minuet wave 2. And we're in the max timing of completion that we expect for a wave 2 of a minuet degree. So once we go beyond this, again, a red flag. Same thing with a subminuet. If I were to just briefly move this over, we've at least reached minimum expectations here for a subminuet. But once we go beyond this point right here, again, it's invalidation. So this point right here is going to be key from a Elliott wave perspective. Now, I would personally think this would be the structure that we're observing. Truthfully, I think this is what we're experiencing at this point. We'll just have to wait and see. From a general perspective, we're still pretty much just trending downwards until we really break these lower highs here. We're still stuck within this price range. From an extreme perspective, we could narrow this down and say there's been a change in the trend when you look at it from this perspective and you take in consideration this high and that lower high, how we broke through it a few times. We're piercing through it a little bit. But again, defaulting back to Elliott wave, managing expectations, if I were to put my stamp on anything moving forward, I would say that we have completed this correction. It's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. Again, there really is not much to really update at this time because we're stuck within this price range. So, given the structure and the time, I do expect extreme significant price action to occur this week. So let's see what happens. And again, I appreciate you guys all watching. If you enjoy the video, please leave a like. If you're not already subscribed, as I always say, please consider subscribing. And as I always say as well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you guys for stopping by. Catch everybody later.